Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Quest and Dialog system in Godot 4 and GDScript. In this video, we will connect the final pieces of our Quest system by adding the functionality to our player to be able to update their Quest tracker and accept quests. Let's open up our project to get started. Since we will want to open and close our quest log using a unique button, we'll have to go back to our project settings and add a new input action. Call this input action UI quest menu and assign any key you want to it. I will assign it the Q key on my keyboard. Then, in our player script, let's open and close our Quest UI menu that we added to our QuestManager when we press this button. Now we'll also need to finish our interaction with our NPC and quest item. When we are interacting with those entities, we need to check if they are needed for an active quest so that we can update our quest objective. So, if we talk to an NPC that is needed by a current quest, we should fetch their quest dialog and display that instead of their normal dialog branch. If we interact with a quest item, we should check if it is needed for an active quest and pick it up if true. If we have talked to an NPC or picked up the item, we will need to update our quest and objective states. So, at the top of our player script, let's get a reference to our selected quest, which you know is our active quest. We can now uncomment it in our Quest UI. Back in our player script, we'll need to create a function that will check if the item we are interacting with is required for the currently selected quest. So as you can see, this is similar to what we did in our NPC script, but instead of checking if the target is our NPC and the target type is a talk to objective, we are checking if the target ID is the item ID and our target type is collection. If both those values are true, we return true because that tells us that this item that we are currently interacting with is needed for an active quest. So we'll also need to create a function that will check and update the objectives for our currently selected quest. This function should also handle the logic for when our quest has been updated to the point where it is actually complete. You will see in our code that we added a pass statement if our quest is completed. This is where we are supposed to give out our reward. In our case, we only have one reward type, which is coins. So let's add a function that will give our player coins if the reward type for the quest is coins. We can now call this function if our quest is complete. Now we can go back to our interaction code and implement these checks. Okay, so as you can see, when we are interacting with an NPC, we check if they are needed for a talk to objective. And if we are interacting with an item, we first check if this item is needed for an active quest. And if true, we update the objective with the type collection. Now we are still printing I'm talking to an NPC and I'm interacting with an item. We do not need these print statements anymore, so let's go ahead and remove them. We'll also remove the target.startInteract function from our item, since this was basically just for testing earlier on. Now, even though we can receive coins as a reward, we still haven't updated our UI. Can you think of a way we can do this?
Something fishy is going on. Man, I wish I were smarter.
Well, it will be with the use of our signals that we created previously. But first, we will need to implement the code to populate our quest tracker with the details of our currently selected quest. We'll do it similarly to what we did in our Quest UI script, but instead of updating our quest log, we are updating our tracker with the details of the selected quest. So this function will update our quest tracker if we have an active quest, meaning we've selected a quest from the log, but it will hide the quest tracker if we haven't done that or when a quest is complete. So let's call this function whenever we update our UI. Okay, so as you can see in our ready function, we update our coin amount. Then in our check quest objectives, we update our quest tracker whenever we update our objectives. And then we also update it as well as our coins UI whenever the objective is complete. Now, just like we did in our Quest UI, let's create our connector function that will update the tracker UI each time there is an update to our quests and objectives. With these functions created, let's connect it to our QuestManager signals. The last thing that we need to do is update our quest tracker and set the selected quest of our player in the Quest UI script. We'll also need to call it whenever we update our actual Quest log. Now if we run our scene, we should be able to open and close our Quest log, but we still haven't added a quest to our NPC, so we can't truly test if this works yet. But for now, let's run our scene and make sure that we can still interact with our NPC as usual, and we can now open and close our Quest log using the Q key on our keyboard. You can see that when I say accept quest, it is going to try and add quests to our quest log, but we haven't added any quests to our NPC, so this button or this list will be empty. I've also noticed another thing, and that is if we press our close button on our log, nothing actually happens. So before we finish off this very long part, let's quickly connect our close button signal to our Quest UI script and just close our panel. Now if we open and close our log, it should also close when we press the button. Okay, so let's split off this part here for now, because in the next part we will actually create our quest to fully test our system. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.